This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, meeting's called to order at 2:01 p.m. Call the roll. Mr. Measy.
Here.
Mr. Geppert.
Here.
Mr. DePonte.
Here.
Mr. Grega.
Mr. Grega. He was here.
I see him.
I see his face.
John?
He has himself muted. I'll chat him. But okay. Mrs. Phillips.
Here.
Mr. Schofield.
Here.
Mr. Sikorsky.
Present.
Okay. We have the September 10th meeting minutes to approve. Are there any changes, additions?
No, I have one.
Okay,
On page 6, about the third item down, it says that Mr. DePonte noted we need to move forward and clarify the roles between the PPCA and the Community Association. Is the Community Association the PPAC?
no, CA.
It's the PP?
You caught a good one, Joe.
Oh, okay.
It should say between the PPAC and the Community Association. I assume that's what Ron meant.
That's what I assumed also, but
Yeah.
I did see that and I thought, geez, I have something I can say.
Good catch, Joe.
Yep, good catch. Any other changes? I would like to comment that I thought it was a very well done set of minutes. There were not a lot of errors in them or things that were not understandable. So I compliment you, Teresa, for getting out a good set of minutes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Can I have a motion to accept the minutes as with the one change that suggested by Mr. Schofield?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Okay, second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Chris, would you take the vote?
Call the vote on approval of the minutes. Mr. Measy.
Yes.
Mr. Geppert.
Mr. Geppert?
His mic was off.
He's muted. Yes, I approve.
Okay. Mr. DePonte.
Yes.
Mr. Grega.
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Phillips.
Yes.
Mr. Schofield.
Yes,
Mr. Sikorsky.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously for acceptance of the minutes with the one edit.
Okay.
Georgia, can you fix that?
Yeah, I'm sure we can fix that here and then.
Yep.
I'm
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Okay, let's move on. Glenn, you're on.
Yes, I sent you the income statement that Scott has prepared to the end of August. In review, the one line item 706551 called shared entry feature expense, there was a charge for the month of August of $15,943. There was a couple of credits. What happened was there was a water main break at, I believe, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, at the front entrance?
Yes, it was the east side monument in front of the monument on the corner of Colonial and Tree Line.
Oh, there you go. So obviously there was some water that was wasted. And Scott, I understand you are working with the city to get a portion of that bill reduced to recover some of that expenditure.
That is correct. Now, when you apply to the city utilities, they do not give you they don't write you a check. They put a credit on the account. So
Well,
once I get the credit, and they anticipate it'll take 3 to 4 billing cycles. So probably won't have that determination until January of 2021.
Well, as long as we get it, as we're still gonna maintain water usage, so that was the only item that I saw, Mr. Chairman, to point out to the committee.
Glenn, do you have any feel for how we're going to come out for the year, or Scott?
Let me pull up the financial.
I see that we're pretty darn close
Okay.
in the budget to the actual. Nothing that jumps out that I think we're gonna be over budgeted.
Okay.
Scott?
We're gonna save approximately $19,000 on the sidewalk and road repairs because those are coming later in the year into our new fiscal year. So that's going to offset the expense on the shared monument features up front. Also, the safety and security is looking like they're going to be 15,000 under budget.
Mm-hmm.
So we should come in line with our budget by year end.
Okay. Sounds like a couple of items, though, that are going to be shifted into next year.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions of Glenn? Comments?
I have one question on item 706520, which is sidewalk and road repairs. Is there any way we can segregate repairs to the sidewalks or roads that are related to live oak trees so we can maybe start keeping an idea of what those trees might be costing us?
I mean, I can make note of that on a separate spreadsheet in the future. Can't do it on the budget.
Well, okay, that would be good. If we could just have a spreadsheet, Scott, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, I think that might be worth starting to monitor as we grow older.
Who's we, me or you?
As the community grows older. not
Oh,
me.
okay. I thought you were talking about me. Oh, okay.
Oh, no, Scott, you're a youngster.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea to me, Joe.
Thank
'Cause they
you.
are a threat. Any other comments for Glenn? Okay,
Thank
we'll
you.
move on to the, Scott, to your report.
Okay. All right, update on the status of the boardwalk. The boardwalk is currently in the hands of the engineers. They're finishing their final work on the documents for being able to put it out to public bid. We're anticipating that their work will be done within the next 7 to 10 days, and then it will go to Tony for a final review. So we are hoping that we can put it out to public bid around the 1st of November. If that date holds true, we would anticipate all the bids being in by the 1st of December and having the board approve it to a start date sometime in the first quarter of 2021. That's currently where we're at. I wish I had better news, but we have to go and work through the process of getting the approval and the bids in accordance to the CDD.
So we're basically going to get started once the snowbirds return. Pretty much.
Of course, yes, yes. Of course we are. Why would it be any other way?
All right, exactly.
Okay, I like it when a plan comes together.
Well,
I was trying to avoid that, but it doesn't look like that's going to come to fruition.
yeah,
As far as I'm going to have Phil Measy cover this, but we do have a proposal on installing a chain link fence, and what we're doing is just taking where it ends at the front entrance at the corner of Pelican Preserve Boulevard and Tree Line and extending it on the north side up to the pedestrians cupola behind the plant material. It'll be on the property line of the GSCDD and the golf course.
Yeah.
That will close in that entrance, and we are also doing it on the south side. So on both entrances, you won't be able to walk in to the community through open areas of the plant material and fence line.
Ron's going to bring that
Pardon
proposal.
me?
Ron,
Ron has, I'm sorry, Ron DePonte has that proposal. My apologies.
Yeah, I sent that to everybody. It came in late today. You all should have
Yes.
had a copy of it.
why don't we save that for your report, Ron?
Sure.
Okay. I think that's really it. As far as the traffic report, we're actually showing an increase over prior year in December by 2,000 additional vehicles coming through the front gates. We are now up to 54,147. With that occurring, I think we're still on schedule to add a second officer to the gatehouse in November of beginning next month, if you're okay to move ahead with that.
That's
is
in the budget,
budgeted
right?
for. Pardon me?
That's in the budget?
That is correct.
Do it.
All right. I don't see any
think
reason why not to.
No, I
Absolutely.
think the consensus is we ought to do it.
Okay, I'll make the arrangements.
Is that all you have, Scott?
That is all I have for today, unless there's a question from the
Any
committee.
questions of Scott? If not, we'll move on to Bob's report.
Good afternoon, everybody. The pond inspection of our suppliers' work, the methodology under which we do that, we have reorganized. We had an appeal to the community to get some volunteers about 3 months ago, and we've had overwhelming success. So the fact that we got people that want to help us, coupled with the bad experience we had this year in managing our pond suppliers, coupled with COVID, I mean, there's all kind of reasons. But anyway, we've totally revamped. So we're going to have about 12 people, as I mentioned in the last meeting, that are going to be responsible for 4 or 5 ponds. So I brought this up today in the president's meeting because the individuals that are going to be monitoring ponds will kind of in effect be reporting to the HOA presidents in a sense, because they're going to make sure that they're all happy with what's going on. And we will be walking every bank over the course of the month. We are still developing the automatic inspection program. We haven't spent any money for tablets or anything else yet because we're not sure what we're going to develop. But once we do, we got a woman that is really on top of this stuff and really knows her stuff. So as far as programming and how to move ahead. So we're looking forward to being able to do that. And that's Peggy Hall. She's the one that's going to help Joe Corliss in doing this. The downspout program. We have finished the first section of Matarita, and now we're starting in the second section. That's the good news. And we're going to be doing the concrete around the bubble up grates, which I think is going to be a nice enhancement. The bad news is, and I want to talk a little bit about this, is that we're going to run out of money. We had stored up some funds, and we got some additional funds when we refinanced our bonds. And of course, we have our annual budget. But despite the fact that, you know, we had all that accumulated money, this is an expensive program for us. And I'm estimating right now, and I hate to do that without having firm numbers, but I'm going to estimate that we'll be short somewhere in the neighborhood of about $1 million to finish. For the upcoming year, for the 2020, 2021 budget, we're going to be a few thousand short, but I'm pretty confident we can handle that. So the time frame that I'm really talking about, from a budget point of view, it would go into the 22 budget, 21, 22, or if we decided to somehow be creative and come up with some new funding sources, whether it's a loan from our reserves, or whether we go to try to get an outside loan, or even a special assessment. And I'm not advocating any one of those things right now, but I'd like everybody to be thinking about how we could get some more funds available to us so we can finish it in a timely manner. Eventually, we will finish it, even if we do nothing. We'll have about 300,000 a year to work on it, but it would stretch it out for about 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 more years after 21. And all things being equal, I'd rather not do that. But so think about that for a while. The next thing is aeration. I'm happy to say that Pond 39 is fixed and running. And that's behind Plaza. Pond 13, which is our golf course driving range, is up and running, and it's a slow ramp up. So everything won't be running for probably another 6 or 7 business days. You can't turn everything on at once because it would create a shock to the pond and kill all the wildlife, the fish and things. So we're making progress on that. The only remaining item will be the Colonial Pond, and we are making progress on that too. I was over there today. I don't know if the cabinet's installed yet, but all the other roadblocks have been leveled. So from a aeration point of view and diffuser point of view, about 6 or 7 months ago, I came before PPAC and suggested or just notified everybody that we're going to turn over the day-to-day calling of problems with aeration to Castle. And they'll call our contractor, who comes out twice a month unprompted. But if we have other issues, they'll be calling him. And that will be our pro forma unless there's something that requires a capital expenditure, and then the ponds work group will get involved in that. Like I think, Phil, that one pond in your neighborhood, we're probably going to end up putting in new cabinets and everything. So we'll still handle that. I don't want to dump any of the problems on Castle, but we would support their doing the day-to-day reporting of issues. Our June, July program of installation of littorals in the various Cypress Grove communities is complete. And now all we need is for Mother Nature to help us keep the fish from eating it and give them a little bit of time to take root and grow and spread. So that should take care of itself by this time next year. From a budget point of view, every year I submit to our group, PPAC, the various items under which we are going to work in the coming year and the amounts of money that we put in each column. And there was a lot of swag in that. The total dollar amount hasn't changed in about 5 or 6 years, 774, 400. But Gateway's got a more aggressive and a better way of tracking spending versus plan. So, and that's Laura. And because of the changes that she has made, work went back over our budget numbers, keeping it in the same dollar value, but we allocated among different sources. And what I'm trying to say simply is, it used to be 100,000 for downspouts. Now we got 331. So 231,000 was moved out of other accounts. It's just a housekeeping item, but I wanted to make you aware of it, that the financial systems in Gateway are becoming more robust. And speaking of robust, and here's one for Scott. A few months ago, we had a problem with Castle paying for aeration electric, which, you know, they shouldn't have been doing. So they've worked very expeditiously in moving those accounts to Gateway, and Gateway accepted them all, and I did too, as a matter of fact, but we probably accepted too many, because I now see I've got some irrigation accounts and lift stations and some other things. So we'll be sorting through that, Scott, as we balance some of these back to you, because you guys do the balance, we don't. And other than asking for your votes for the election, that's all I've got this year. And I'll be signing off about 1/4 because I've got an election function over at the district office.
Any questions of Bob? Okay.
We are rolling today.
We are. There being no questions, we'll move on, Ron, to your report.
Okay, a couple of things. You should have gotten an email earlier today with a proposal to complete the fencing in the front of the community that connects basically both sides of tree line towards the gatehouse. The SSWG a couple of weeks ago did a review of the community, a perimeter review, security review. They came up with a few things of concern. The most important one was taking care of the construction entrance. But of course, that's going to require a significant effort on a lot of different activities besides the PPAC. So there's not much we can do about that today. The second thing was completing that fence in the front of the community, which is why that proposal was sent to you guys. I think it's about 15,000, but there's an option one, and maybe Scott can go over that a little bit more about what that is. From reading the proposal, it looks like it basically reinforces the fence to make it a little bit more secure. Scott, do you have anything you'd like to add about that option one?
You're muted,
Scott.
Scott.
You're muted, Scott.
Oh, you like how my mouth moved? And it
Yeah.
came out?
Why don't you eat lunch?
Thank
That would
you.
be great for the debates.
We can't do that with those. The additional fee for a little over $2,000 is the difference between commercial grade and residential grade and adding the top bar to it. It just makes it a sturdier installation. Reason I had them do that is because in some locations, the previous entity that was involved in installing fences sometimes reduced the cost by putting in residential fencing. This is a commercial application, so that is why I've added that to the proposal.
Scott, I have some comments to make, and they're all
Yes.
positive in favor of supporting that. First of all, the thinner wall and the smaller tubing is much more prone to being damaged if someone tries to climb over it. I think we'll spend $2,000 just fixing it one time. So rather than getting something that's less than a 1/16 of an inch thick, which is what that wall tubing is at 0.605, this is a little bit greater than a 1/16 of an inch. It's certainly much stronger. And I think it'll save us money down the pike just in repair costs with people maybe trying to get over it.
It
So
will.
I'm all in favor of option one.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a
Okay,
motion.
so-
We accept it.
Yeah,
I think we get, I think we need a motion, Ron, to do the whole project, right?
well, the fencing and to include option one.
Yes.
Mhm.
Phil,
I thought that's what a motion, Phil, but that's all right. Just so we get it.
Ron, this is John Greger. I have a question regarding, have we had safety issues because we have not had that fence there?
Well, it's hard to say, John. As you know, we've had a couple of intruder issues over the last 3 months or so. And it's not clear how the persons got into the community, which is what prompted this security review, if you will, in terms of the perimeter of the community. Obviously, unless you start putting barbed wire on top of these fences, people can still get in, whether you have a fence or not. It makes it a little bit more difficult for a casual, teenager or young adult to, spur of the moment decide they're just going to go walk through our community. it seemed like a logical thing to do, given that we do have a fence over, with a few exceptions, over, 90% of the community. It just seemed to make sense to complete the front. And that would definitely eliminate one of the main avenues of ingress into the community. At least it'll make it a little bit more difficult for people to get. If you remember when we did the fencing along the golf course on tree line, it's basically the same kind of issue. We had those group of apparently young kids who came through and did a job on some of the community homes in Trieste. And the question was, how did they get into the community? And then we saw that there was no fence in that particular area. So we ended up putting that fence up there. This is kind of like the same thing. It's not an exceedingly large amount of money, and I think it would be well spent to do it.
John, I have kind of two perspectives on it. One is the the actual enhancement of our security, which isn't tremendous, but it's there. The other thing is, frankly, is psychological. It's people in the community will feel much more secure. There were a lot of people, as you recall, when these intruder incidents occurred, we got a lot of feedback from people very concerned. And one of the things we said we would do was take a look at what we could do to enhance the security. And I think this will give people a feeling of greater security. And I think that's an important part of what we do.
Phil, I would agree with that, but I still think there should be a consistent effort to remind people this is not a secure community, as lots of gated communities aren't secure. So they still have to maintain due diligence and take care of themselves.
I agree, Joe. No question about it. So Ron's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I will
second
second
it.
that.
Okay, Teresa seconds it. Any further discussion?
I have one further discussion, and going through it, Ron, in your notes, I noticed that you will look at maybe putting a locked gate at the walkthrough into the community. I would strongly encourage that if we're going to spend the money to put fencing up, that we seriously look at that, because people will still be able to walk through, sneak through, and the fence would be a big impetus from people doing it. But if we put a gate there that's locked, it'll certainly, I think it'll kind of close the issue down.
Oh, I thought I saw gates in the proposal.
No, this particular one does not include the gate. The previous
excuse
one
me.
that you had seen from last month included putting a locked gate across the
Where the
sidewalk.
guard would activate the gate. Let them in. Yeah, well, forgive me. I thought that's what I saw today, because I would totally support having a gate also.
Yeah, I think the problem is, and we need to look at the gate a little further, at least from my perspective, because the question is, if you lock it, how do we lock it? The association is probably going to implement a new card system to open gates at the town center. And we could perhaps include a card, some kind of a card entry in the gate, which I think we probably would want to consider. But there are other issues here. For example, if you have a gate, the bicyclists are going to say, well, I got to stop every time and open that gate. So it's not a slam dunk. But on the other hand, I think it's very worth looking at. And I think we need to consider what kind of, if we have a gate, what kind of entry key do we use, if you will, for the gate.
I agree, Phil, but I think the rule of law for the majority of the people is bicyclists are few in number compared to the people that are concerned and people that would be walking.
I'm in contact with you right now. I'll let them know.
Yep.
Yeah, the bicycle really should be on the sidewalk. You ought to be on the street to get in and out. But the gates I'm familiar with allow free access to leave and a card to get in, and I assume that's what we're talking about.
Chris, we're getting some feedback from you.
Yeah, I think Chris has got his microphone on mic.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but
sorry.
the gates I'm familiar with, you use a pass to get in, but you don't need anything to get out.
Get out, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this proposal doesn't preclude us doing that, adding the gates.
Later on.
There's also a need, I think, to relook at the lighting out there as well. So I think all of those things need to continue. And this certainly does not preclude us from doing more in the front. So I think this is a good first step. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of people arguing against completing the fencing, and then we can take care of the side issues, if you will, of putting a gate up and how do you control it. I also want to have another discussion with Tony Pierce about whether we can prohibit non-residents from walking into the community. I know we can't prohibit vehicles from coming in, but I'm not sure that extends to pedestrians or bicyclists from coming in. So I think there's more discussions and more work that needs to be done.
Yeah, who owns the walkway is what it boils down to.
That's right.
Okay.
Tony needed to check on that because it had to do with bond counsel. So there's some checking to be done, but this is the first step of probably doing something. And I think the motion probably in the minutes should read that we are requesting the GSCDD board to approve this expenditure for this gate or for this fencing.
Okay, and it has to make sure it's clear that it also includes option one.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, Chris can carry that forward for us. Any further discussion?
One kind of general comment to Ron. When the fence was first put in along tree line, we had a lot of discussions about having either cameras or motion sensors or things like that. So I just kind of throw that out that maybe that would be revisited on the next time you do a security sweep and you're looking at it, even for the man gate and for the back gate. We may be appropriate now to start doing something like that or thinking about it.
You're absolutely right, Bob. We did have that discussion 5 or 6 years ago when we put that fence in. Absolutely.
Yeah, we were almost ready to pull the trigger then, but I'm glad we didn't. Now it may be appropriate.
You know, maybe we'll have to do something like that, especially on that construction gate back there. If we decide if we go ahead with that emergency entrance exit kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, Chris, if you would.
Call the vote on the expenditure to Carter fence. Mr. Easy.
Yes.
Mr. Kepper.
Yes.
Mr. DePonte.
Yes.
Mr. Grega.
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips.
Yes.
Mr. Schofield.
Yes.
Mr. Sikorsky.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay.
Okay,
The other thing I want to talk about is post orders.
Yeah, whatever's in your report. Yep.
Okay, the SSWG has basically completed its review of the post orders. I did not get the final revision, if you will, until about an hour ago. So I didn't think it was appropriate to send it out and have you guys, you know, do a pass through of that thing. But it's basically been completed. I will send it out to you. I know, Phil, you've had a chance to look at it, and Chris has incorporated some of your comments. What you're going to get is a copy of the post orders that includes tracking of all the changes, so you can see what changed from the previous version to this version. So you don't have to look at every single thing in there if you don't want to. It's going to have to get submitted. Once we approve it, I guess we'll have to wait until the next meeting to do that, Phil. But it ends up having to get to Tony for his review before the CDD will approve it. And maybe that's a good thing if we wait until that next meeting, because in the meantime, we'll put together the version of the post orders that we want to send out to the community. So it's a shortened version. It'll be a couple of pages long, so that the residents know exactly what the guards, the roving patrol, as well as the guys at the front gate are being told to do in terms of their interaction with the residents and other people coming into the community. So that'll give us time to put that together and get both things to you guys. So you can have a final look through that and then send it out to Tony for his review before the CDD gets their shot at it. Okay, let me see here. I think, I don't know if I brought that up at the last meeting or not, but the permits for the construction projects, Trieste, the walkway at on the boulevard, et cetera, and the stop signs, the speed limit signs, the permits have been submitted. We hope to get a positive response within a couple of weeks. And then if that indeed does happen, that'll give Scott the go-ahead to go get contracts done. So hopefully we'll have a little bit more to report out to you guys by the next meeting. I think that's it.
Ron, you might want to, I guess because I participated in this perimeter review, there were a couple of other things that I think came up beside the front fence that you may want to comment on.
Well, there's the issues with the front gate, of course, and how we respond to that. I'm looking through my emails here. Here we go.
Well, the thing I was thinking of is,
Want me to talk about the generator?
well, no, not the generator, but in looking at the periphery, what we determined is most places where we don't have a fence or a wall, the vegetation is so thick that it would be highly unlikely that someone would come through those areas. But the one area that there was a little bit of we might want to have to do some work is back by Palazzo, where the vegetation is a little thin in one place, and there was a fence in there that's been knocked down that I think we may want to have repaired.
Yeah, from the notes I got from Don, it wasn't clear I guess it was a barbed wire fence, in fact.
Yes.
Who belongs to that fence back there?
Well,
Was
it's
that
not clear.
Bridgetown?
No, it's on our property.
A little right on that. The fence is on Bridgetown property.
It is?
And yes, and the reason that the fence came down was because they had a requirement to build a berm. And when they went and put the berm in, the fence just kind of wasn't replaced. We're talking about the V of the cul-de-sac.
No, I'm not sure we're in the same place, Bob.
Okay, because it runs all the way from the corner of our community, all the way up behind almost to Pond 39, almost to Viadana. And they were required to put a berm in there. So if the fence is someplace else, then that was a different.
Because this was a fence that was there, but it just been knocked down. In any event, I think it's one that we need to look at, Ron.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's not clear whether that would be our issue or the community association issue.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of who owns the property back there, it could even be a Palazzo issue.
Mm-hmm.
They own the property.
Anyway,
But yeah,
something
we
we
need
look
to
at.
follow up on that, no question.
Yep. The other thing I would mention is that at the president's meeting this morning, there was a great deal hue and cry about people speeding in the community. Something brand new.
Yeah, sure.
And why weren't we, what we needed to do? Well, of course, nobody quite has a silver bullet on the thing, but they felt that we should have more of those flashing signs that show the speed people are going. The thought of buying a couple more of those to use around the community. They wanted to bring in some high-level police people to express their concerns about what was happening. So that's one of the things we'll need to respond to.
Okay. Again, hey, Scott, our speed sign, monitoring sign, I I've only been back in the community for a day and a half, okay? I've been gone for the summer. But could you make sure that Chris gets that back out there again? Don't know if it's been deployed over the summer.
You just need to drive down Veneto Road or Veneto Drive by the town center and you'd see it.
Oh, okay, good, good. I know we wanted it up there before we put the rumble strips down to
Yeah.
get a before and after kind of effect.
And we do move it into neighborhoods based on requests.
Well, what was the community who was having the most complaints about speeding, Phil?
Well, one of them was Toscana.
Okay,
I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember. One of them was one of the Mataritas.
right.
But there was a kind of a general feeling that, we ought to be doing more about speeding. So, but
okay,
I
well,
think we've heard that once or twice before, Ron, as I recall.
yeah, if memory serves, yep.
And somebody
Okay, guys,
brought up.
I'm going to sign off, Phil. I got to sign off. Got to go campaign, but so if nobody
Okay.
else has anything, have a great week.
Okay, thank you. Note, Mr. Geppert departed the meeting at 2:42. Another thing, they brought up speed humps again too, Ron, is another possibility.
Sure.
Yep.
Ron, I have a question regarding the police. The police were here today, and they really were, if it appeared to be, they were at the golf course intersection there, and they're just looking for people going through the stop sign where most of the concerns have been people speeding on Pelican Preserve Boulevard. But the police come in. Do you give them any input as to what we would prefer them to do when they come in here?
Absolutely, John. We give them a certain idea what our concerns are, and then we don't dictate to them what they do once they're in here. They're free to do what they think is best. But I'll check through our Don Bickle is our contact with them. I'll check through Don, and since we have this increased concern about speeding, we'll see if we can get them to just drive around the community. I mean, it's hard if you're stopped on Cypress Grove. That in and itself creates a bit of a hazard. But we certainly can re-emphasize with them about the speeding issues.
I mean, because if they just give out tickets for, slowly going through the stop sign, not coming to a complete stop, I don't think from a safety standpoint that's as big a concern as the speeding within the community.
Okay, duly noted, and we'll pass that on to Fort Myers PD.
This is Glenn. Ron, I usually walk out of Verona, Sevilla to Pelican Preserve, the four-way stop before the bridge with my little dog, evenings, weekends. I hate to say this, and I hope I don't offend anybody, but research has shown that people who drive high-valued cars, Audis, Mercedes, BMWs, tend to disobey traffic signs, and we seem to have an incident. In fact, one lady with the top down Sunday evening was going towards the bridge, hardly stopped at the stop sign, and I yelled at her, and I thought she was going to jump out of the car. But what I have seen is that when the police aren't here, they tend to know that. And I was thinking, do we have the right to publish who is being cited for these incidents?
I don't know that we've asked that specific question. I guess it's part of the public record if you get a ticket. But we certainly can look at that. Yeah.
I think we discussed that several years ago and it was kind of, people shied away from doing that, but I would concur with that too. Put their name
Me
down.
too.
And I'd hate to, I try to in my community, and I have a small community, if I see someone do even a rolling stop, I'll put out an email and say, look, if we don't stop doing this, we're going to have to implement further costs that you're going to pay for. And it always seems that many pay for a few. And I would like to see that published to say, hey, look, these are the offenders. And do I care if they get offended? No, because we're not obeying our traffic rules.
Well, I sold my BMW, so I'm clear now.
No, and I did. I'm just saying, it seems that we know people are in a hurry. We know people are going, but different places. But it just seems that, Phil, you saw this morning with new presidents, we have to go through everything again about what has been brought up over the years.
Yep.
And Phil did a great job this morning biting his tongue, about additional signage and speed bumps and rumble strips and maybe first. So I'm just suggesting it.
Okay. I'll definitely look into that.
Thank you.
Mhm. Anything further, Ron?
Let me just close by one thing. We've been spending a lot of time talking about security. I get copies of incident reports. These are the reports that the roving patrol folks or the guys at the gatehouse put out when they observe something that happens during their shifts. And I got to say, on average, I probably get 2 or 3 reports from Scott reporting garage doors open at night. Okay? And it's unbelievable if they're all this concerned about, we got people wandering through the community that shouldn't be there, people breaking into cars and all that kind of good stuff. And people just don't learn. Okay? And other than just keep telling people to do it, I'm not exactly sure what else we do. I think one of the things that I like you guys to think about, because it'll get some blowback, there's no question, that even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, if the roving patrol sees a garage door open, we should call the resident and tell them. Right now, if it's either 9 or 10 o'clock, Scott, I forget what the post order says, they don't call.
Actually,
Okay.
Ron, if I may interrupt you,
Sure.
last week we took a different approach, and I did not inform you of this, but last week we started to call the owners no matter what time of night it was.
Okay.
And
Good.
the reason we took that position was when you have between 2 and 4 a night that are leaving their garage doors open, I would rather err on the side of caution and to get our owners to try to change their behavior and to shut their garage doors. Now, we haven't received any pushback from the owners we have been able to reach. Most of them are appreciative, say thank you, and they take it into their own hands. There are occasions that owners do not answer their phones.
Sure.
But
Well,
that actually follows our post orders going forward.
Scott, I think that's a great idea to call the people. I mean, I think people leaving their garage door open was an accident. I certainly don't want mine open, but if it is, call me at 2 in the morning. Because I think it is just that somehow they forgot or they went out the garage and came in the back door. It happens.
Yep.
Well,
Scott,
I think most of the people would be very appreciative. Thank you for calling. I'm going to shut the door right now.
Hey,
if we
Scott,
become known as
Yes.
Sorry.
something.
We
in the
could
back.
become known as a community that keeps their garage doors shut, which would entice people to go rob somebody else.
Well, Scott, if you would, and Phil, you can chime in and you see this is a good approach. How about sending out a note, an email to the community and telling them that?
I
And
will.
in fact, you have seen 2 to 4 every night, and you're now, the guards are now being told to contact those individual owners to tell them.
I will do that in tomorrow's email communication to the owners.
Okay.
Scott, the other thing is a lot of these garage doors, if you just push the bottom button on the control at the garage door, they will shut.
We've instructed the patrol officer not to do that
Okay.
because they're actually going into private property. And that might create a hazard for not only the owner, but actually the patrol officer if he enters the garage or right outside the garage the same time as an owner leaves their home.
Yeah, in my house, we have our outdoor lights set on, they're kind of dim most of the time, but if somebody walks onto the property, they go real bright. And you don't want homeowners thinking there's a burglar outside when it's the roving patrol. Somebody's liable to get shot. So yeah, I agree with that, Scott. We shouldn't ask our guys to go do that.
The phone call works well.
Yes, I agree. All right, I think I'm done now.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Ron?
If I may speak on the speeding item, Phil, if you don't
Sure,
mind.
go ahead. Yep.
It really, as far as all of us are concerned, we go back and forth and discuss this. I know just a couple of times this has come up. But as far as speeding in the community, law enforcement will tell you off the record, and every community that has had this issue, there's only one way to control it, and that is to put in rumble strips, around stop signs or hazardous areas or speed humps. No matter how many signs you put up, electronic speed signs, additional signage, or having the police come in will not solve or reduce the problem. Matter of fact, Fort Myers Police Department really doesn't have a traffic control division like Lee County Sheriff's Department. So this is not high on their priority list. Crime and crime prevention is. So we're basically not going to make any progress with the Fort Myers Police Department, bringing them in to talk to our residents, or the patrols will only have so much effect. So I just ask you all to think about that as we go forward. And maybe we should consider a plan of looking at a 5-year plan to address speed humps and rumble strips where we feel they're necessary. Because other than that, drivers aren't going to pay attention. It's not only in the community, it's when you leave the community, they drive just as bad. That's all I have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and if I could add something to that, Scott, I don't know about the Fort Myers Police Department in specific, but in general, most law enforcement officers won't write a speeding ticket unless it's 7 miles or more over the speed limit.
Oh, it's worse here. It's 10 to 15 miles. I've been told that on numerous occasions.
Yep. Okay, well, thank you, Scott. I think this is stuff for the SSWG to take up and contemplate and bring back to PPAC.
Okay.
So moving on, a couple of things that are not directly shown on the agenda. I just wanted to mention the construction road in the back. Work is still going on to see if we can turn that road into an emergency road, the back of the community, as well as perhaps a road that will that the CDD will be able to use for their vehicles to service the utilities that they support in the back of the community. There are a lot of complications in the thing. There are 5 or 6 parties involved, all of whom have to come to agreement. including Lennar, the CDD, the PPCA, the Prado Pistoia Master Association, Homeowners Association, just a lot going on. One of the things is it appeared that the DRI was going to have to be altered in order to do this. It now looks like possibly we can do it without amending the DRI. So all of that is going on without getting into all the details, but it's a long and deep, difficult situation.
Bill, could I ask a question about the history there? I've been told that there was supposed to be, or there is looks like it was supposed to be an exit out of Pistoia. And I don't know, was it originally scheduled to be that way, or how did all this come about that it wasn't used?
Well, I don't know, but there was to be a road that was going to come in and frankly go through property. I thought it was in Prado and between a couple of houses where they are now. But at the time it was laid out. And that they didn't do it, obviously, because then the decision was made to build homes there. And so they put in this particular construction road, but they're leaning on that, the fact that they didn't do that road as a possibility of not having to amend the DRI, because what the DRI prescribed is when Lennar leaves, they've got to cover up the construction road, vegetate it, and leave. And they're trying to say that Lennar has done this by not using that earlier construction road. That's one of the routes they're taking. So,
Bill, when I first moved here 7 years ago, at one of the Alliance meetings, Carol Brokey addressed that issue. And the comment, as I recall, was that there was supposed to be another road out to Tree Line, which WCI never completed. And we were supposed to originally have two exits or entrances, one for emergency purposes, but that never was done by the developer. And I've never heard that anything at the back end was ever to connect to Gateway. But Carol, I think you might want to check with her, but about 7 years ago, there were lots and lots of comments by the numerous new people moving in. It was every meeting that was asked. And that was the comments back at that point. I'll leave it at that, but my understanding was there was supposed to be one, it was supposed to be a Tree Line and never through. In fact, Prado had been removed from the community at one time.
Well, anyway, this road, if it occurs, will not be a general access road. It will definitely just be an emergency road.
Yeah.
We'll
That'd
keep
be
you
good.
posted on what happens.
That would be good.
Yep.
So a quick question.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
regarding the emergency road, the new firehouse that they plan to put in Gateway, what is the mileage that it would be if they had to use that emergency road versus the mileage from the existing firehouse right on Tree Line?
I don't know, John.
I mean, just looking at it from a map standpoint, I'm not sure we're saving anything with emergency vehicles coming up that way versus coming through Tree Line into that area.
It's a different fire department.
Right.
Correct.
And we may be covered by that fire department. So
I'm confused. What do you mean we may be covered by that fire department?
I think that part of the property may be part of that fire department's district. Or
Fire
whatever.
district.
Fire department that they plan to put in Gateway?
Yeah.
If that's the case, are you going to have an issue where Gateway is now going to say we are part of Gateway and
No.
this whole thing that comes up?
Now, part of the deal is the connectivity issue is not going to be part of this. That's
Say
not
that
going to be
again.
part. The connectivity issue. That's the reason I said that it is an emergency access road, not a general access road. because
Why would the city of-
we don't want to have the connectivity issue come up again. And the people in the CDD have agreed that if it's just an emergency road, that issue will not come up.
Bill, if you have two different fire departments and they're both taxing units and we're paying city taxes for a fire department, Prado is doing the same thing. If a new fire department's built in their backyard, but they have to drive all the way around, how in the world could that possibly become, how could Prado become part of another fire district? It's the
I
fire
don't know,
district's
no.
already defined.
Yeah, well,
If I may interject,
yeah,
this has to do with two fire districts and jurisdiction. Basically, what that would require is that one jurisdiction turns the Prado Pistoia area over to the Fort Myers Fire District. As Phil mentioned earlier, there's a lot of pieces and there's a lot of hoops to jump through to get this correct. But Joe, you're actually bringing up a good point. And that's what the fire districts are going to have to work out, because what firehouse is going to get the 911 call? Currently, everything goes to the firehouse across the street at Treeline. And that's not going to change in the foreseeable future.
Okay, well, that's good. I hate to think those people have to wait for 10 minutes to get a fire truck when there's one 2 minutes away.
yeah. There are people working this issue.
We're talking 2 years away, Joe.
Yeah, I wish people that are working on these issues would be transparent.
Yeah, I mean, is there a reason we're not getting all the information?
No, there's no reason you're not getting all the information. It's just that it's a very complex situation, John, and they haven't they haven't come out with all the puts and takes. There's legal issues involved here. There's all sorts of things involved. And there's no reason, they're not trying to hide it. It's just that it isn't something that they've gotten the public in on.
Do we know, Phil, do we know what the budget is or what the cost would be to redo that road?
That's one of the many things that has to be worked out, John. And when we know the budget, who's going to pay for it? And where will the money come from? That's all part of what they're working on.
John, just to help you with that, John, we would have to have a pre-permit meeting with the city of Fort Myers building department, the DOT, and the fire department, so we would have something to base our proposal on. But based on what we have out there now, the preliminary engineer is saying we could be spending in excess of $750,000 for an asphalt road.
And that includes raising the road up above floodwaters, I assume.
Again, that would be in the engineering, and we would have to work with the Southwest Florida Water Management District and FPL because it's in their easement.
Yeah, well, I know that from talking with the guard there that road does definitely go under water. So making it a road without elevating it would really not benefit anybody.
We are not going to resolve that issue today. The other issue I wanted to bring up with you is something that I sent you rather belatedly. Has to do with the Pelican Preserve emergency response team, which has been set up by the Pelican Preserve Community Association Board. And it's really a PPCA entity, but part of it, as explained in the information I sent you, is that one of the things that entity may do during a hurricane or other emergency situation, when the Securitas people are sent home, may need to man that gate man the entrance to the community. And in doing so, they would like to be able to use the guardhouse, the building there, just for shelter and for the restroom facilities. And they would like to ask the CDD board for their approval to use that facility. Now, in applying for this approval, we had to go through a long and detailed description of what the Pelican Preserve ERT is, who the people are on it, what the procedures will be at the front gate, and a lot of other things that were included in the information I sent you. But what I would like to get from you today, and I certainly, we can discuss it, is your approval or request of the CDD to approve the use of the guardhouse by the Pelican Preserve ERT. So I'm open for questions.
Phil, I have a comment about the document that was written about what the purpose and what this group would do. And having written a lot of specifications in my life, I would make a suggestion that where you reference people's names that would be contacts, you remove those names, make that an addendum to the end of this document, and just put down that they will communicate with the town center management company. They will communicate with the property management company. They will communicate with the president of the PPCA, and don't put names in it. The minute you put names in it, you've dated it. And Saeed, who just got a 20% pay raise, maybe wouldn't even be there if he hadn't gotten that. So already your document would be outdated. So I would suggest that you put titles for these positions and then have an addendum as to who might be filling those positions at that point. Therefore, when you have to maybe make updates or revisions, you aren't changing the whole document, but just maybe the back page.
Okay, good point.
Good idea.
Yep. Any other questions?
Hey, Phil,
Yes.
why don't you talk about the generator request?
Yeah, it's a little bit separate and apart, but Ron, I agree with you that one of the things that's been suggested is if the power goes out, there's no power in that gatehouse. And it's been suggested that we might want to install a generator there in case there is a power outage. So I would, but we can do that as a kind of a separate thing here, where we can ask Scott to look into the cost of doing that, and we can bring that up. We can bring that up at another meeting, and one where I think we can approve it because it would probably be less than $10,000. This is a special.
It's very inexpensive. That would not cost even near 10,000.
That was my point, John. Yeah.
Yes. Very inexpensive.
Yep. So what we need today is this approval because it involves legal jurisdiction as well as insurance issues, all of which have to be still looked into, the insurance issues. But I
would make a proposal that we go forward with it, Phil. I think the idea is very good. It's related to community, and I support this group and what they're trying to do. So I would make a motion to approve it.
Okay, and
Second.
it's moved and seconded that we recommend to the GSCDD Board of Directors that they allow the PPERT to use the guardhouse under certain circumstances, emergency circumstances.
Yes.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, Chris, if you would.
Sure, we'll call the roll on the vote. Recommendation of use of the guardhouse. Mr. Measy.
Yes.
Mr. Geppert is absent. Mr. DePonte.
Yes.
Mr. Grega.
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Mr. Schofield,
Yes.
Mr. Sikorsky.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you all for that, and we will keep you posted on how we move this thing forward, but I appreciate your doing that on relatively short notice. Okay. Moving forward here, the Gateway meeting attendance schedule.
I'm scheduled for the next one, October 15th.
Okay. Then there would be another one on the 29th of October.
No meeting on the 29th. First and
there isn't
third
any.
Thursdays.
Hmm?
First and third Thursdays of the
Oh,
month.
I'm sorry. Yep. I'm
Yep.
looking at
We'll be looking at November 5th and
November. Now we're looking at November. Yeah. You're right. Okay. So it would be November 5th and November 19th. Do we have anybody can take November 5th?
Glenn here. I'll take November 5th.
Okay. Anybody can take the 19th?
I'll take the 19th, Phil.
Okay, thank you, John. It's possible, if we can get it done, that Glenn on the one on the 5th, I guess that wouldn't be the one. It may be the one on the 9th. One of those two that we may be presenting this proposal from the PPART. So I might be there for that.
Well, let me know.
Yeah, I will let you know. I will let you know. Okay. Committee member requests and audience comments. So we have some people in the audience. Chris, how do they make themselves known to you?
They could chat or they could just speak up. We could
Okay.
take a turn.
Are there any audience members who have any comments or questions?
At this point, all their mics are muted on their end.
None from me. I'm Cecilia. None from me. Thank you.
Okay.
Ron, I have a question for you on the really good report you put together, and I think it appears where we approved for the fence, but there's a comment, item 4. I'm not sure what page it is, but it talks about the storage area and keeping the gate locked. When I used that storage area years ago, there was a lock on the gate and required a code that they gave to people. Is that lock gone or not functioning anymore?
Scott or Phil, can you comment on that? Because I wasn't physically there.
That gate is still lockable, so I'm not sure where that report came from.
Well, Don put it out as a result of your reviews.
Pardon me?
Don Bickle gave me a summary of what you guys found when you did your walk around. And that was one of the things he mentioned, that storage area back there wasn't locked.
I did not visit that storage area with Don Bickle. I'm sorry.
No, okay. And I didn't either.
Well, there was
All right.
There was a coded keypad there that you had to enter a code to unlock it. So if that's not functioning, we should look at that, get it fixed or replaced.
Yep.
Well, I assume that's a community association town center?
Yes, that's through the town center. I'll touch base with Terry.
Okay.
Great, thank you. I have nothing else.
Does
Phil,
anybody else?
Yeah, I've got a question. I thought I saw an email that came out that indicated that all future PPAC meetings have to be in person as opposed to Zoom. Is that accurate?
Well, as of the exemption for having live meetings was extended from October 1st to November 1st. So we're going to have to see what develops. But at this point, that may be, we may have to have live meetings. And I'm working with Tony on that one.
That
Okay.
means I'll have to wear pants again.
Chris, are you aware of any changes with regard to the CDD meetings?
Well, not at this time. The exemption does expire the 1st of November, so we're looking at this point to holding the November 5th meeting with a physical quorum. We'll still conduct the meetings on Zoom to allow people to attend and participate remotely. But as far as the board itself goes, there will be a physical quorum unless it changes. And the last time it changed was the day before it was required to go back to physical. So I'm sure it'll be a last minute decision.
Chris, I have a question regarding, let's assume that they have to be present, new effects after November. Can guests Zoom into those meetings rather than being physically present?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we'll continue to conduct them that way to allow remote. We don't really want to have the boardroom crowded, so we prefer people to attend that way. If people
Okay,
want,
so even EACs, if somebody wanted to monitor our meeting but not be present, they can do it through Zoom or something like that.
Sure.
Just as there are people on today, John.
Oh, but today we're all on Zoom or GoToMeeting.
Yeah, but
I'm talking about in the future, a year from now.
yeah.
I think it's here to stay.
In any event, we'll have to look at it, and it's possible that we will have to have 4 of us volunteer to actually be present, to have a quorum at the meeting. So we'll have to see how that works out. In the case, they only need 3 board members. Is that right, Chris?
Yes, 3.
Yeah, we would need 4. So
Bill, are the president's meetings I don't know when they started back again, but are they available on Zoom?
which ones, Joe?
President's meetings?
Yes, it was on Zoom this morning.
Oh, I must have missed a notice.
Yep. It was on Zoom this morning. And by the way, there will be, just to mention it, there will be a PPCA Board of Directors meeting on Monday at 10 o'clock. And that will also be on Zoom. And that the announcement of that meeting should be coming out tomorrow, probably.
Very good.
The road is all.
Yep. Any other suggestions, comments?
Well, I have 2.
Our next meeting is November 12th. Keep you posted as to whether people have to be physically present. I entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Well, Ms. Measy, if I might, I have 2 items I wanted to bring up.
Oh, yes, please do, Chris. Go ahead. Sorry.
First of all, on the discussion about that emergency road, the only thing that's happened was a letter of intent and the board looking at it to identify the issues involved with it. So it's all exploratory at this point. It is going to be part of a board workshop at the meeting on the 15th. Well, again, it's just going to be a discussion on the issues and the DRI and costs and things that have been discovered. But again, it's very preliminary. Second thing was on your hot wire cable, you may notice a big pit over by Seville and Pelican Preserve Drive. The contractor hit a sewer line last night and the city utility crews were out there till about midnight. They were back out there again today. They were pumping the water out of the ditch directly into the stormwater system. We don't know if any raw sewage also went into the stormwater system. And I would strongly recommend you check out because it looks like there's about 4 or 5 of your sidewalk panels that have been undermined from this washout. And what those contractors like to do is throw a little dirt on the side and say it'll be fine, where basically the base of those sidewalks has now been undermined and they really need to be pulled up and replaced. And I wouldn't let them walk away from that. We are we call the city code enforcement, that they came out there today. We also notified Sunshine 811 because in areas they were digging without locates. And they were also what you would term as an illicit discharge, pumping all that muddy water into the stormwater system. So they've got a real mess out there, and I kind of chastised the contractor. I said, well, it's nice you let all that happen and you don't even call us. So, and so Mr. Geppert's back.
Yeah, I'm here and I'm glad it came in for that. Phil, put them on notice. We'll be cleaning those storm pipes and they can expect.
Well, and what happened at my house isn't as bad, but they cut through our Xfinity cable, so we had to have somebody come out and repair it.
Yep. And they're working another cable company out in Gateway Greens right now. It's kind of interesting because they're replacing the cable, but they're cutting a lot of existing cable and they really won't go live. So when those snowbirds come back and find out their irrigation lines have been damaged or their existing cable lines have been damaged, it'll get interesting.
Bob, did I hear you in on this?
Yeah, I came back to the meeting.
He's back.
Okay,
One of my political meetings was over here, so I jumped back in because I knew you guys were on.
good. I'm glad you got that information then.
Yep.
Hey, Chris, what road was this on?
It's on Pelican Preserve.
It's Sevilla.
Boulevard by Sevilla.
It's Sevilla.
That's Sevilla, okay.
Yeah, if you go by there, I think the county, the city crews are out there working again now because of some of the issues related to it. And some of our folks are out there.
I think it's important to understand that Hotwire has miles of stuff they've got to lay, and there's a lot of stuff underground here, some of which the locates aren't good, although you said the locate was not bad on this one, Chris?
Yeah, evidently the area they were digging in then, they did not have locates.
Did not have locates. So they're struggling with a lot of problems. They've been very responsive in correcting most of them. Teresa, you mentioned one that they at least jumped on pretty fast, I think, and they've cut a couple of irrigation.
Well, that wasn't Hotwire, that was Xfinity. They came out and fixed it.
Okay.
Hotwire cut it, Xfinity put it back together.
Mm-hmm. Hotwire's hit a couple of irrigation lines they've had to repair, and they've had other repairs. They're going on all the time. I was informed at a Hotwire construction meeting this morning that this hasn't been an unusual amount of problems, that they run into this in a lot of communities that they work in. The one problem that they did mention for this community is that they said that our ground is very hard, harder than most. Now, for what it's worth, the ground is particularly hard here, so they mentioned that.
That's good. We'll have less
Like
sun.
to the golf course.
Now, Chris, anything else?
No, that's all I have.
Need to cut you off. Okay. Again, can I have a move to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Joe moves to adjourn. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. I don't know who seconded there. John seconded it. The meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Take care,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Well, I can't believe this, almost another hour after I left. We were breezing through that menu.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised too.
Okay, yeah, I got some signs in the back. I'm gonna go put them out. Where was that community?
West Links.
Okay, wait.
If you went down to Commerce Lakes, like where Saucy Meatballs on the left,
Yeah.
and made a right, that back entrance into Gateway Greens with the guardhouse.
No, I didn't. I go to Saucy Meatball and I make a right.
Right, yeah. And then down at the four-way,
That's the way I came in.
yeah, if you go down to the four-way stop then, and then make a left, you'll see those roads and there where all the commercial is.
The left, okay.
Yeah, there's restaurants and bars and gyms and, the charter schools back there.
Okey doke. Well, trying to do everything I can to get them out. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Have a great day, sir.
Okay.
I love what Laura's doing.
Oh, yeah.
It's awesome.
It's all over, all help, yeah.
All over.
When you get that disconnected, you have management companies that's running the stuff on one side, but they're basically.
This way.
So it's all of us. Here, stuff was spinning and spinning. I got out of it and went back in and it says cannot be found. That's what happened.
Well, I was getting some too. So
Yeah.
this got over.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you.